Times remain tough, cutting this year's growth forecast by half. Martin Stanford has the details.
Dermot, here are some of the measures behind me that the Chancellor talked about today. If you add it all up, he basically gave away as much as he's going to recoup. It was fiscally neutral in the jargon. Let me talk about a few of these things for you. First of all, on tax-free income, that sum of money you can earn without paying any income tax, the aspiration to get to 10 grand per annum, well, it's coming in a year earlier than planned. Not this coming tax year, but the next one in 2014-15. Much talked about this in the papers this morning, the idea that there's going to be another fuel escalator in September. Everyone was getting a bit depressed about another 3p on the cost of fuel. The Chancellor's gone further. He scrapped that altogether. It's cancelled for the time being. And this was a bit of a surprise. Beer tax, which under the old escalation system there would have gone up a bit, this budget, maybe 3p, 4 pence a pint. He's scrapped that as well. In fact, he's gone one better, and he's cut the government tax involved in beer by 1 pence a pint from Sunday evening. Now, why is he doing all this? Well, it's because inflation is still a bit of a problem. This is the numbers we were given in December 2012, and here I can now add in the numbers we've got today. So the 2.5% target for inflation, or expected outcome for inflation, has now been replaced by the realism of actually it's going to be more like 2.8. Next financial year, 2.2 was an estimate. It's now looking like 2.4, 2.0 and 2.1 in election year, coming close to target. So in that sense, work in progress. Now, this was an interesting measure, but let's talk about housing, and two big measures here. First of all, a help to buy scheme worth some £3.5 billion. If you can't afford that deposit on a house because it's ridiculously expensive, all the housing, or a flat in your particular part of the world, the government will chip in. If you can get the 5%, they will give you the 20%, and it's going to be interest-free and it'll be recouped later on. There's also going to be a mortgage guarantee scheme that if you can't afford the mortgage, or your loan-to-value is not likely to attract a commercial mortgage, the government again is going to chip in to guarantee your mortgage, and they're going to spend this whacking great sum of money, £130 billion worth of investment there. Some other infrastructure spending going to come in, the Chancellor talked about today, a further £3 billion on top of all the investments in railways and road, a total of 15 billion over the next decade. The problem they have, and this is a problem, is that the economy really isn't taking off. These were the numbers we were given in December. 1.2% is what we were told to expect this year. In reality, the latest numbers, 0.6. So growth this year has halved. Next year it was supposed to be 2. It's going to look like more like 1.8. Only in election year does it start to plateau, and the 2.3 expected then still, says the Office of Budget Responsibility, pretty realistic. Now, what other measures has he done? Well, the National Insurance Allowance is an interesting one. Small firms often have a disincentive to take on another employee because you've got to pay them a wage and you've got to pay thy NI bill. The government says it's going to chip in here by the first £2,000. You don't have to worry about it at all. And this is also going to be a measure that people in business will like. A single rate of corporation tax coming in, not until April 2015, it has to be said, but that 20p means it's now the same from a massive corporation to the smallest company, 20 pence in the pound, the lowest, said the Chancellor, of any major economy anywhere in the world. There is some pain to pay for all this. A public sector pay cap of 1% that's been in place. That's going to be, with the exclusion of the military, rolling on for a few more years. And let's just finally give you the rather depressing debt numbers, because this was a government pledge. This is what the government wanted to do when it said the numbers in December, how the curve of we were going to stop borrowing quite so much money was going to be in that shape. If I put on today's data, you can see that as a government, we are borrowing more money, a percentage of our nation's wealth, right up to 82, then it goes up to 85 in election year. It peaks the year after at 85.6 on current plans, 84.8. And what does all that mean? It means this massive number, nearly 2 trillion of borrowing at the moment, and we've had to adjust this as a result of today's data. That's going to be heading up to 1.5, nearly 1.6 in a few years' time.
Martin, thank you very much. Well, that's some of what the Chancellor did, but what does he want us to think? Well, here's how he rounded up his speech.